Welcome to Kung Fu Talk, Volume 1. Today's special guest is Pavel Macek, Sifu. He is known as a Honga enthusiast. He is a martial art expert and specialist. He's founder of Practical Hung Kuen in Prague. He's author of many countless articles. And he's a master certified instructor for StrongFirst in Czechia and chief instructor at MMA Gym Praha. I'm very happy to have him on the show today, and we go back for a long time. I'm not even sure what you're saying. What you say? How long we should be more than 15 years?
That's right. First of all, King Lai, greeting to everybody. Frank, thank you for getting me on the show. The most important thing that you forgot, that I'm your good friend. We know each other for years. We first met online on different discussions forums. And then we finally met. I made a trip to your Hung Kun gym, led a couple of workshops there, and we had fun. And we keep in touch. We are both Kung Fu enthusiasts doing our research. So thank you for getting me on the show, and thank you for everything that you are doing for Hung Kun, brother.
Oh yeah. So that was gonna be my before we go. Because today everything is about Hung Kuen, starting with the history. But before we start with the Hung Kuen history, I wanted to start with our history. You know, so, I kept that back for a while. But yeah, we have been friends for a long time, and I'm not even sure. But it started online. That's right, on some discussion forums. But
I would say more than 20 years, brother. I would say about 20 years.
Yeah. If you include the discussion forums and the talk. But the first time, I mean, Sifu Pavel is from Prague, Czech Republic. I'm from Germany, but we met the first time in Hong Kong, right?
That's right.
That's right. Couldn't be any better, a better location than that, you know. So that must have been like 2000, 2006.
I think 2006.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So long time ago, 15 years ago, right? Yeah, and then we have seen each other in Hong Kong several times, not that one time, you know. One great time has been when I was, because of you, I was invited to the 100th birthday party of Grandmaster Lamjo.
That's right.
That was special. That was 2009, February, yeah, it was February, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But 2009, and that was so great. And we always loved to research and exchange articles, pictures, and anything related to Hung Kuen, right?
And you have been always very generous in sharing the materials, rare articles, scans, movie footage, and so on and so forth, both personally from your private collection, as well as sharing it to the Hung Kun worldwide family. So again, thank you for what you are doing for our system, brother.
Oh, thanks. I love to share, because I think all these things get lost anywhere. We don't know how much is still out there that someone has in his basement in an old box or something. We don't know that, or somewhere. Or someone who
I am onto something. I may get pretty soon something that we are looking for a long time, but let's keep it a secret for time being. And if I succeed, then you'll be the first. I'll let you know, of course. But so finger crossed. Let's hope that we got another very precious piece into our collection.
Oh, that sounds that sounds great. Very curious now. So yeah. So this is a little bit about our history, and there's so much to talk about. I mean, it's between us. Other people don't need to know everything, but I really love when I was still living in the Philippines, in Manila. We had a lot of contact even then already. I mean, we didn't have all the high-tech things that are available now, like even this Zoom. We were just basically emailing and writing messages, stuff like that.
That's right.
But it was so exciting when I found something new, or you sent me something new. It was always so exciting. Oh, look, I know this old master, he got all the magazines, and then I was scanning all this stuff and I was sending it to you. And then it was always so amazing and exciting, so exciting. And then we found this one person, I want to say this, rest in peace. You remember Tony Ma? The one who always, he passed away last year, December.
Oh, I didn't know.
I didn't know until I
was so kind to translate many of the stuff for us, because both mine and your Chinese is limited, and he was a very kind gentleman who helped us to translate the Lam Sai Wing stories about how he learned the weapons and other stories. Always helpful. So rest in peace, Tony.
Yeah. I just also by accident came across where someone said rest in peace, and I was like, I was shocked, you know, because to be honest, I didn't have too much contact anymore with him in the recent couple of years, but it kind of made me sad. It was also in December, like when my Sigung passed away, and then also a former teacher of mine from the Philippines, Grandmaster George Ramos. He passed actually 1 day later after my Sigung passed away. So it was December was a bad month, a bad time for many of us. But let's go into the Hung Kuen history.
Yes, sir.
We know it's kind of blurry, so to speak. I mean, after Wong Fei Hung, I would say, or before Wong Fei Hung, it starts to get blurry, I think. So there's the informations that we have from that time, I would say, are mostly by word. Some stuff is written, but as we know, not everything that is written has to be true or exactly on point, right? What's your take on this?
I divide the Hung Kuen history into 3 different phases. The first one is legendary founders, which means Southern Siulam Temple, Southern Shaolin Monastery, then the legendary founder, the abbot of Southern Shaolin Chisin Sensei, his students Hung Kun, Luke Choi. So this is the legendary phase, legend. So we don't know much about it. We have lots of stories. It really doesn't matter if the stories are true or not. What is important is the message that they are sending to us. Both the stories about legendary heroes from the Southern Shaolin, as well as, let's say, the famous Hung Kun meeting Fong Wing Chun lady, the third lady of Wing Chun, and establishing the Tiger Crane system. So the message behind the stories is actually more important and more real than if it is a real history. So this is the first phase. Then we have 3 generations of Wang family: Wang Tai, Wang Keiying, and Wang Fei Hung. We don't know much about Wang Tai. We do have some records about Wang Tai and Wang Fei Hung, of course, probably the most famous figure of our system. And in the same era, I would put as well Tit Kyu Sam, the Iron Bridge 3, and his student Lam Fuxing, who eventually taught Wang Fei Hung. So this is a second phase. And that's a dividing line between so-called old Hung Kuen and new Hung Kuen, because Wang Fei Hung style, because of his cross-training, both with Lam Fuxing and other teachers, he studied with Wong Yan Lam, HIP-Hop, and now we have it 100% confirmed, not only from the HIP-Hop sources, but from the Hung Kuen sources, from Ji Yuk Jai, from Lam Sai Wing's students. So he cross-trained with Wong Yan Lam of the HIP-Hop style. And since that times, we have a new Hung Kuen, which is combination of old Hung Kuen, short bridges, narrow stances, in-fighting, close-range fighting, and long bridges, very agile footwork and long-reaching side body techniques. So that's the second phase. So we have the legendary founders, then the Wang family, plus the lineage of Tit Kyu Sam, which is very important part of our heritage. And then we have the modern masters, which is basically students of Wang Feihong and their students. For example, my lineage, Lam Sai-Wing, my grandmaster Lamjo, and my Sifu Lam Chan-Sing. So we know way more about these times.
Yes.
So
yes.
this is my take. 3 phases: the legends, then a little bit more, still legends, but a little bit more history, and then history basically, and our times.
Right. So if we go to the first phase, so we have, let's say we have Hung Gun and we have Luka Choi. Somehow I hear more about Hung Gun than, for example, there's this Chinese documentary. I think you shared that on your channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And if you watch that documentary, it's been a while since I've watched this, but I remember they try to find the old grave or something, or the remains of a grave from Hung Gun. But really, they didn't really find anything, I mean, that really, I would say, is legit, where you could say that's the grave of Hung Gun, right?
So right now, we can really say with certainty that Hung Gun existed. My brother, as you know, he lived in China for about 7 or 8 years. And he studied old Hung Kuen with a Sifu named Zhao Sifu. And his lineage was Lao Dan Ho Hung Kuen, as well as Hung Gun's Hung Kuen. And he did a lot of research. He spent insane amount of money of purchasing different old documents, such as, you know, written chronicles and sources. So right now we can say with 100% certainty that such a person existed. There are some records in Qing chronicles that a man named Hung Kun killed a man with 1 strike. So it's not a legend anymore, but we just don't know how to connect him with the martial arts BoFaat stories of, let's say, you know, the famous era of 1930s stories about Siulam Temple, the disciples of Siulam Temple. So same applies, let's say, to the triad societies, right? So we have a, let's say, martial arts and pulp fiction, basically, stories about our ancestors, such as Hung Kun, and then we have the official records, and they are kind of different, kind of way different, but we can say that Hung Kun actually existed, and in southern China there are many lineages that pay respect to Hung Kun as their founder. Our mutual friend David Roger Sifu, he is a student of Tang family Hung Kun, different from Tang Fong. This is a lineage of Tang Jiangkong Sifu, his father, Tang Long, his grandfather, and their lineage goes way back, all the way back to Hung Kun. And it is exactly the old Hung Kun that we see very often in southern China, sets such as Zhongda Kun, emphasizing the till, peck, and then strike. So more interesting is because, as you know, our lineage basically goes back to Luka Choi, right? So I always wondered why we are actually called Hung Kun if there is not much connection with Hung Kun. According to my research, what the stories say is that both of them were students of Chisin Simsi, the abbot of southern Siulam Temple, the venerable master, great kindness or extreme kindness, and they both of them studied in the southern Shaolin Temple. If it existed or not, I don't know. Not important. The story is important. After the southern Shaolin was burned down, they escaped, they scattered, and they later reconnected. So Hung Kun probably haven't seen Chisin Simsi after the destruction of southern Shaolin temple. But Luke Ah Choi studied with Chi Sin in Hoi Tung monastery in Canton, and he reconnected with his senior kung fu brother Hung Kun, and trained with his Sigung as well. And our style, there are many theories why it is called Hung Kun. Of course, Hung Kun, as being the founder, he was teaching in different monasteries, in the Big Buddha monastery, Hoi Tung monastery, other monasteries. But also another theory says that it was a southern Shaolin style practiced by the Hung Mun, the Hung League, the original, the historical Chinese triad, the pro-Ming patriots.
Exactly.
So that's another reason why we are called Hung Kun. And I have found a great, basically, oath of the old Hung Mun society members when they were accepted into the secret society. The master asks, where did you study martial arts? And the disciple answers, my style comes from the Shaolin temple. The master asks, what style did you studied as first? And the disciple says, Hung Kun was my first style. And master asks, do you have any proof? And the student says, my fists are the proof. So it was a kind of a Hung Mun ritual when they were accepted into the secret society. And I think there is definitely something about it.
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the style was, you can say, it developed in a time when the Hung Mun was very active, right? I mean, so also the name Hung Kun, I mean, first so I have been told it was just called Lam Kun, but later converted to Hung Kun. After it was,
if you remember my Sigung Lamjo, on his name card was actually Lam Kun set, which means like Shaolin boxing, right? Not Hung Kun. The name became, I personally think that it was already called Hung Kun back in the old days, and we have some proof for that, but they didn't attach the meaning to the names of the styles as much as we do. So not that much branding, not that much marketing. So whenever they ask what style do you do, they say, oh, Lam Kun, right? Shaolin boxing, or Hung Kun, the style of the Hung Mun association of the Hung Lake, right? And the name Hung Kun became very popular in 1950s, I would say. If you read the old books written by Lam Sai Wing's student, Ju Jai, it also says Lam Kun set, Shaolin boxing art. And Hung Kun is mentioned there on a couple of occasions, usually with the 3 extensions. Sam Chin Hung Kun and the Ting Gam Kyo, right? And basically, when I asked my grandmaster Lamjo, when we were discussing different sets of Hung Kun, he always said, I asked him, okay, Kung Ji Fuk Fuke, taming of the tiger in Kung pattern. Hung Kun said, and he said, no, that's Siu Lam. This is Shaolin Kung Fu, right? So I said, okay, Fuhok Seong Kun, tiger crane double fist. And he said, oh, that's Jab Ga, which means mixed martial art, basically. They are parts of Hung Kun, Hap Kun, Choi Ga, and other styles as well. Then I said, okay, Hung Kun, 5 animals, 5 elements. That Jab Ga, that's mixed again, because the 5 element section comes from Hap Kun, right? Then I asked him about Titsing Kun, the iron thread set, and he said, oh, that's Siu Lam. So either Siu Lam, which goes really back in time, like really old traditional Kung Fu, and then we have Jabka sets, which means basically mixed martial arts, which is our Fuhok, tiger crane, and our Saping Kun, 10 forms, aka Hung Kun, 5 animals, 5 elements. But today, everybody knows our style mainly as Hung Kun, thanks to the pulp fiction stories from the 1950s, 1960s, movies, of course, movies of Lau Ga Leung Sifu, and of course, thanks to the pioneers of our style in the West.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I always wondered, I mean, or not wondered, but if you look at it, how the style developed, but it was, it's safe to say that like ones like Wang Feihong or Lam Sai Wing, or maybe Lam Sai Wing continued the work of Wang Feihong to kind of organize the style itself, because I think pre Wang Feihong you could go from one province to another and they would call it Hung Kun, but it would be different, like set wise, and maybe even maybe the basics, the foundation is always the same. But because I remember when I lived in the Philippines, and also later on went there for visits. In my early time in the Philippines, I have learned a set called Sapji Kun, and they said that's Hung Kun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this set was brought to the Philippines, or actually many sets were brought to the Philippines by a master called Lau Kim. He came from southern China through Hong Kong to the Philippines and have lived in Chinatown there and taught for a long time. And he taught Hung Kun. But if you look at the sets, you see a big Choi Le Fat, little bit influence in there, but they call it Hung Kun. So it was very interesting. It's also the style, as you remember, when they do the Kyusa with 2 fingers, that one.
Many lineages do it with the like a 4-finger slipper scar in China, let's say in Samchun or Hung Kun.
Yeah.
So they don't do this, they do this, or just straight palms.
Or on my last trip, I have met another old Sifu also with the family named Wang, and he's also from southern China, and he's also teaching privately Hung Kun, but also again very different, and then also different to what Lau Kim taught. So these they also call it Hung Kun, you know. So I think in China, especially in southern China, it can be Hung Kun is not as organized as later on it was from persons such as Wang Feihong or Lam Sai Wing.
I would say they were calling Hung Kun any type of southern kung fu, basically, with alleged roots in the southern Shaolin temple. So that's what I would say. Second, I still don't think that Wang Feihong's and Lam Sai Wing's kung fu was that organized. I think they were way more fluid, they more natural. I think it is us, especially Westerners, who try to put some system into it.
Yeah, okay.
I can do it. If you look, for example, that's an interesting idea at Hung Kun, the 5 animals and 5 elements.
Yep.
It is not another set, but it is summary of all the other sets, right? Just like if Lam Sai Wing said, okay, I have my Gung Ji Fu and my Fuhok and my Tizin from Wang Feihong. I learned 5 animals from Wang Feihong, but I want to put it all together into one set, including some of the HIP-HOP techniques that are not featured in the other sets. So Saping is actually best of Hung HIP-HOP, basically. Best of Hung HIP-HOP. We have both Hung Kun there, we have both HIP-HOP there. So I'm not sure that they were really that organized. Even Wang Feihong and Lam Sai Wing, they had some curriculum, of course, but I would say it was way more flexible than we think today. The reason is, back in the old days, and you know that from your own studies, the student just came to the school, possibly after work, or they just lived in the school full-time and trained full-time, and they had all the time to spend with their master and learn the skills. So it wasn't much about sets. They learned different combinations put together into the set, and everybody was a little bit different. So if you see different non-Wang Fei Hung lineages, not that far away from Wang Fei Hung, but let's say his time, you will see the same combinations, but just put into another sequence. So you still have Qin Ti, Song Gong, Song Gua Choi. You have, you know, whatever, Big Zhang, Lao Jiang, Double Tiger, Single Tiger. It's all there. It's just put into way different order. You have lots of Chao Kun, Pek Choi, Zhong Choi. So lots of these combos you can see in many other lineages of old Hung Kun, of Wang Fei Hung's time. They are just arranged differently. So this is my theory. We are too focused on system and sets, and they were more about skills, techniques, and combinations.
Yeah,
but
totally.
This is my theory. I'm not sure if I'm
totally
right
agree.
or not.
I also think that forms, as we know it, came into the they were not as important before as they were later on, when there was less fighting, when it was not necessary anymore. I mean, probably even it starts with conditioning. You know, before, maybe in the older times, they had to really condition themselves so much that they really probably kill someone with one strike. But who will do that now, right? Or even 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when it wasn't necessary anymore. So that's when there was
just compare it to the professional training of today's professional MMA fighters, right? It's very grueling training. You know, you train twice a day. You have your martial arts skills. You have your boxing, your kicking, your clinch work, your ground fighting. Then you have strength, conditioning, stretching, and so on and so forth. And the power, let's say the striking power of, let's say, even average MMA guy compared to a layman is huge. Like the power difference is huge. So now imagine that back in the old days, these guys spent a lot of time on training the basics, Chakma, the stance training, then possibly some running, hitting the sandbags, kicking the poles, strengthening their fingers, doing finger push-ups, lifting the jars, you know, doing ta something to condition their forearms, then a couple of selected combinations put together into the sets so they don't forget them, and so they also have some sets that they can perform as a form of marketing, right? That will attract the students to the school. So compared to a regular guy who doesn't train any martial arts, of course, these guys were like killing machines. Just like today's high-level athletes, let's say, even mediocre boxer can strike, you know, like 10 times faster and harder than a regular Joe, right? So
true. Yeah. I just guess that the change. I mean, let's talk about forms. Like, I don't see people that really fought with their style for their lives or to protect their village, that they had sets like with the Gim or with the Helba, with the Daido, you know, stuff like that, because obviously there's a big Chinese opera influence in some of the sets. And I think that came into play when the fighting was less, and you used the forms more to promote the school, or you know, and I think there's a big influence there, and I don't see that a normal person had a Daido anyway. You know what I mean? Like I
would say that this part of Chinese martial arts was there even way long before, because if you read some of the old manuals or novels, let's say Qi Ji Guang, the famous general, he's already talking about the performance part of the art and criticizing it, even his selected techniques for his soldiers. Basically, he said it's to maintain some morale, right? To maintain some structure and some orderliness in the army, not so much for the fighting. I think this is a part of Chinese martial arts that was there for hundreds of years before, and it had its role. The thing is that right now we want to judge everything just according, let's say, one standard for us, because we are of course interested in the practical usage of the art and the combat aspect of the art. We had to do our research and our training. But if we look at everything from the fighting perspective, then we will be disappointed. There are parts who are devoted to Ling Kung, basically building your active flexibility, developing some stamina, some mobility, structure, breathing, and so on and so forth. And you can't really say this is useless for fighting. Does the fighter needs to be healthy? Yes. Move well? Yes. Have a good joint mobility and minimal required flexibility to deliver, let's say, different kicks? Yes. So this is still very important part of the training, just like, let's say, weightlifting. You don't fight with a deadlift or bench press, but the fighter can still do barbell deadlifts or bench press, or let's say kettlebell swings and get-ups. You don't fight with these, but you will use the strength and skills. And because the rebels, of course, didn't have access to much equipment, they were moving and hiding, they incorporated lots of the exercises into the sets. Those are the first parts of the sets, let's say Gung Ji, the first sections, the standing section with Sam Chin Sao, and then the Saping Ma section, right? And then you move from there. Fuhok, first, second, third, fourth, fifth section. Saping, the whole dragon part, right? Right. It's all about that, right? So yes, these moves, they do have their fighting aspects, and you can develop a great series of drills, but this is not the main goal. So, and if you look at it from the fighting perspective, the critics, they will say, oh, you are not stand in a Saping Ma stand, somebody will kick you in the groin. No, of course, I'm not going to deadlift if somebody is going to hit me, but I will develop the necessary strength. Same goes what you have just mentioned for the performance part of the art. You just want to have fun. It's fun to, you know, swing Guando, right? Or train with the Kim. Some parts were designed for the fighting, but some parts were either a story, such as a Guando set, which is basically a celebration of General Guan, right? Or just training the beautiful movement of the Kim, which actually comes from the northern styles. And what I also think, it was part of the marketing. So the school had public performance, and of course you didn't perform, let's say, Kyun, or, you know, some fighting combinations. Nobody cares. It doesn't look good, right? But if you did a weapon set, two-man set, sparring set, wow, that looks cool. So it helped to attract the students. Then they got into the school, and then the master said, okay, Saping Ma, half an hour. And we won't do anything else until you can do it. So some push-ups, some stance training, hit the back, do the 3-star conditioning exercise with your partner on the pole, develop your basics, and then we will talk more. So again, that's just my theory based on my research, especially in southern China. So what they said, the fundamental training was stance training for Hung Kun, stance training. So Jadma. Second, Ta Sam Sing. Third, punching the sandbag. Fourth, kicking the poles. And fifth, pulling the return ring. So these were the fundamental exercises of old Hung Kun.
Right. I agree on that. And what I meant to say is exactly that. Where before you actually used your style to marketing your school, you know, I mean, in times when you just had to fight for, you know, for your life, or, you know, and I don't see that a normal person who live, you know, that they would have a Guando at home, you know, like in a village, some farmer or whatever, you know, they probably train with what they have. So what I mean is, I think that a lot of the stuff came later on. I mean, I know, of course, General Guan and his soldiers, they had their basics and all that stuff. And after he passed away, they after he was killed, right? Didn't pass away peacefully. But what I mean is, obviously he's someone people pray to or have a big respect for, and I think that form kind of shows the respect they have.
That's a celebration of
Celebration, exactly.
General Kwan's heritage. Definitely agree.
Yeah, exactly. So I just what I just meant is that I don't see maybe that this came a normal thing for schools to do this. That was later, I think, you know. Like
for the fighters, basically what they did was the fundamental training that I just mentioned, couple of selected combinations over and over, such as Wong Fei Hung's Sabduk Sao, the 10 unique hands, which are basically different combinations. They include also kicks, sweeps, and so on and so forth, but it is always attacking combination. It is always combination, and they are just you know, couple of them, and you train them over and over so you can use them in a real fight, and possibly one set. Many old styles, they feature just one set. Just the different generations, I would say, out of the respect to the previous generation, they kept what they learned, but then they had made up or collected new stuff and made a new set. But just also out of the respect, they taught the sets of the previous generations. You can see it in Choi Lai Fat, for example, right? Some lineages, they have like 100 sets, right? And it's like all about then, yeah, and it's all about 10 techniques, 10 seat techniques, right?
Yeah.
Hung Kuen is originally 14 techniques, today divided into 3 sets, but originally it was one long set. And even before that, it was just combinations. So single techniques put into the combinations, then in one long set. And later, because it was too long, too demanding, they divided into 3 sets. Wing Chun Kuen, the same thing, right? There are lineages which have just Siu Lim Tao, and the Siu Lim Tao contains also Cham Kyu and PUG sets. So some sets were split into more sets, again, because of marketing, making more money. Okay, I'm going to teach you set 1, you will pay me that much. Then I'll teach you another set and another set. There is a praying mantis lineage with like 30 sets or something, and the same thing. Okay, you pay me another amount of money and I'm going to teach you another set, right? So different reasons, I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, sets, you know, I love sets, you know. I think it's a good workout, and it teaches, it doesn't teach you to fight, but it teaches you how to use some stuff for fighting, you know, right? I mean,
think about it like this. Let's say COVID times right now, right? We can't really spar. How about the, let's say, Jujutsu guy, BJJ guys, who were laughing at what we do for so long, and now they are doing, you know, rolling sets and drills on the ground on their own. So the tool is great. The tool is not magic. The tool is very useful if you use it wisely and correctly. So I enjoy training drills and sparring and strength training and so on and so forth. But we are now in a back in the Qing dynasty. We need to hide. We can't train openly. We can't train with our kung fu buddies. We got to train on our own. So what you will do? Focus on your strength and conditioning. Possibly hit a back. Do something on your pole. Do a couple of selected techniques, stretching, and do your sets. Right.
It's funny you say that. I mean, it's, if you think about it, yeah, we are not allowed to practice in groups. So what is left?
Yeah, so-called tuklin, which means you have toilin, tuklin. Toilin, you practice together. Sparring sets, application, sansao, sparring, right? So that's Toilin. And then we have Tuklin, training on your own. So right now we are doing Tuklin training on our own, and we have plenty of stuff to train. I'm working on my Gung Ji and Fuhok like Matt for time being, and also training Hap-Kun sets that I learned from my friend and teacher David Roger Sifu.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I because I was injured on my shoulder for a long time, and it's better now since 1 or 2 months maybe, and then I started to practice my sets more intensive again, and because I couldn't do anything, I couldn't lift my elbow, which is very bad. Can't do a paujan, can't do the extension to the side, but now it's all good again. So, and I feel like because I couldn't practice for a long time, not a long time, but a couple of months properly, I still practice, but not the sets, not everything of the sets. But now I feel like it's like a bottle of wine that you put in a somewhere in the shelf and get it out later. It riped without doing anything, you know what I mean? And so because we've been doing this so long, I think if there are some sets I never will forget, even if I wouldn't practice for 10 years, I think I would never forget any more these sets. Especially I practiced so many times, but also taught it so many times to so many people, you know. Exactly. So every time you teach it, you learn from the student as well, right?
You know my approach, I call it evolution by reduction. So I learned many sets in the past, and as they say in Chinese, I gave them back to my teacher. So I'm not practicing them anymore, and many of them are really great. I just like to focus more on the selected sets that I like, which is of course Gung Ji, Fuhok, Saping, Titsin. These I like very much. And as for the weapon sets, I have just a couple of selected weapon sets that I enjoy or that I feel have the great transfer to other skill, which is a double-ended staff, single-ended staff, long park one. Of course, I like single whip. I like the bench and saber and double knives. And basically, that's all I practice. I learned way more from different teachers, from my lineage, from my teacher, of course, and other stuff. But this is my focus that I'm working on. And of course, the 3 sets that I learned from my friend David Roger Sifu and his teacher Tang Jiang Kong, my Hap-Kun sets. So this is what I focus on.
Yeah, that's great. That's I mean, I have reduced my curriculum a lot too, you know, but some of the sets that I basically not teach anymore, or but a lot of my students, long-time students, they have learned them before and they still will keep them and practice them, you know, so they're not lost or anything.
I think it is good to have, like, I call it A and B and C curriculum. A is like must have. Anybody needs to, if you want to be proficient at Hung Kuen of our lineage, everybody needs to learn Gung Ji, Fuhok, Saping, Titsin, long pole and double knives. That's mandatory. Like everybody needs to learn that eventually. So this is your A curriculum. They do have B curriculum, and we can say Jin Jiang or modification or these sets, right? So and many other weapons that we got. And there is C curriculum. I would include all the northern sets that were incorporated later, which don't have the Hung Kuen DNA, so to speak. Some of the sets, such as the Lam Wing Hang's sets, the Wudip Jiang, as well as the 3 forms, right? The cat, snake, and crane set. Anything else, and it's good to have them because let's say you may have a lady and she wants to learn Kim, like the straight sword, and it will make her happy and she will keep practicing it, developing the nice graceful movement that I'll never have, for example. And then another guy, he wants to learn, you know, Taipa, the trident just because he loves the weapon. So I think it is still important. It is important to focus on the A curriculum, but not discount the B and C curriculum. Keep it, because it may be very useful to some, and it can just make somebody happy, right?
Also, a lot of students not coming for fighting in the first place, you know.
Exactly.
Some just want to have an exercise, and they like the beauty of a form, you know. So it's also not like, you know, what I always tell my students or some friends, it's not like that the whole world is full of MMA fighters out there on the street searching after traditional martial artists to beat them, to show them how useless their style is, you know. A lot of people don't care about this, you know.
I just said to my students today, actually not student, one of my friends, we are discussing similar topic, and I told him in a Chuang Tzu book, there is written that one man, he gave away all his money to learn how to kill dragons, and then when he got really old, he found out that there are no dragons. So he just wasted all the time and all the effort in learning how to kill dragons, right? Many people, of course, you know that I'm a huge fan of reality-based self-defense, MMA. I'm also trained and teach real self-defense, and I love MMA. I think that's the best thing that happened to martial arts in a long time. But my school is called Practical Hung Kuen. The practical doesn't mean fighting only, right? To be healthy, I think
practical doesn't, not exactly.
It's very practical, right? To move well, it's very practical. To be strong, that's also practical. To have fun and enjoy the stuff that you are doing, this is also practical. Not to be a jerk, right? I think this is also practical. So the practical Hung Kuen encompasses way more than just fighting, because we have good results in MMA fights, in challenge fights. We are emphasizing the combat aspect a lot. Yes, people think that practical means only fighting. No, for me, especially when I got older, I will turn 45 this year, right? The health, mobility, movement, fun aspect becomes more and more important. So we shouldn't discount any part of the art, and we shouldn't throw the baby away with the bathwater, right?
I agree. Also, if you look at a lot, sometimes, you know, you feel like you have some pressure in your back, you know, like you look so much on the fighting, and you think you know it all and everything, right? And in retrospect, after my Sigung also passed away, I was thinking about, I mean, I always think about my Sifu or Sigung, but after he passed away, I really it was obviously it was surprising, but I was thinking, every time I saw him, he was like, he had this look in his eyes. I mean, his eyes, they were like, you know, you met him so many times too, and he was always kind of happy and friendly. In old age, he still performed sets with 80 plus, you know, in public. So
he was enjoying the life in general, right? So he loved Kung Fu so much.
Also enjoying your life and be happy. And have a skill, you know, because let's not forget, he was really good. And
I'll tell you the first time I met your Sigung. Maybe I told you probably before. We are talking about Len Kang Kong Sifu, a legendary student of Grandmaster Wong Lei. Super nice guy, super friendly, super skillful. I was in Hong Kong, I believe that was 1998. Yes, 1998. And there was a Kung Fu performance at my grandmaster's birthday party, Lamjo Sigung's party, and Grandmaster Len Gangguang suddenly came to the stage and started to perform a very, very long set, like super long set, which looked very different from what we do. It was a set of old Hung Kuen called the Phu Chet Lam, Night Tiger, emerges from the forest, and you are one of the very few in the world who actually knows the full set, the full sequence. And I asked my Sifu, like, what the hell is this, right? And my Sifu said, oh, this is old Hung Kuen, very strong. And I said, who is this master? I never met him before. And my Sifu said, this is Lang Sifu, and just look at his hands. His skill sao, his bridges and his fingers and his fists are super strong. So I said, wow, this is really, this is something, this is interesting. So this is the first time I met your Sigung.
Yeah, I remember when I met him way later than you, but when I first saw anything, it was probably you. I think you sent me the video when he performed Night Tiger somewhere, and that's also the first time I saw the set, and I was like, what's that? You know, with all the hand movements, you know, and it was really crazy. But yeah, then when I met him the first time, it was like he has such a personality, you know, like capturing, like you could. It was just the language barrier, you know. You know, it was.
He just loved the stuff. He just loved what he was doing. So he was always, you know, spark in his eyes, enthusiastic, always showing, explaining, very energetic. Yeah, Leung Sifu was great. So bless
his soul. Yeah.
Bless Leung Sifu, and let rest in peace. And we spent a great time with Leung Sifu. Of course, you spent way more time that I did with him, but we got some great time. And as for the Night Tiger, I learned the first part, right, from your Sifu, Long Zhongman Sifu, my great friend, great guy, super skillful, Kung Fu master, and super kind. I mean, one of the kindest persons I know. I learned it way back in Holland from him. Of course, lazy me, I didn't keep practicing it, so I forgot most of it. But I want to learn the full set from you. Especially, I like the second part with all the tiger claws and Kamna Sao. So this is my goal for the future. If you accept me as your student to teach me the set, it would be honor to learn that from you, brother.
Oh, that's no problem. You know, we I must have a lot of footage of my Sigung performing the set at several occasions, you know, and then not too many times, but a few times he performed the complete two sets as one set, right? And I always wondered, is that the original version as Wong Lei learned it? Because
I think so.
I researched, but it was also Wong Lei who made it two sets. I thought maybe my Sigung did that, but what I found out, Wong Lei already at some point made two sets out of one.
Some sets were put together, some sets were separated. Let's say, as for our Gung Ji Fu Kun, it's originally Song Gong Fuk Fu and Tang Gong Fuk Fu put together. And you can clearly see it, that the first part up to the high pin choi, low hak fu choi strike just before the butterfly palms is very different. It's quite different, right? So these, I believe, were two sets put together, and some lineages, let's say Tang Fung lineage, they practice it as two sets. They have Gung Ji Kun and Fuk Fu Kun, right? In other cases, and I believe that this is the case of the Night Tiger as well, it was one I mean, even if you divide it into half, the sets are pretty long, right? So if you put it together, it's like super long set. Same thing applies to the sets from the HIP-HOP lineage that I'm following from Tang Sifu, from my friend David Rogers. what we have found out in our research, and we're talking with Tang Sifu, they had just one long set back in the old days, student of Wang Yanlam, which was called Fuhok Seung Tao, which means Battle of Tiger and Crane. And it was later divided into Siu Lohon, Tai Lohon, and Fuhok Seung Tao. So again, one long set divided into 3 sets and adjusted accordingly. So the Tai Lohon is more basics, Kei Bung Kun, Kei Bung Kung, Siu Lohon is more kickboxing, and it was actually adapted to the Santa rules of the 1940s, to kickboxing rules, and Fuhok, Tiger, Crane, and also it has a performance part. That's what Tang Sifu said. So again, it's always changing, right? So we try to think, oh, and there are some people claiming this is the original set from Shaolin Temple. It wasn't changed in our lineage a bit. And I think, hey, you know what? I think I feel sorry for you, because my friend David, he always likes to say, just look at your iPhone, right? You have a iPhone 11, right? It's way different from your iPhone 1. It's way different from your Nokia phone. It's very different from, let's say, the old phones. If you watch some of the footage, let's say, of old boxing or Thai boxing, it doesn't look really nice. Some of it actually looks pretty awful. I mean, these guys were fighters and brawlers. They had guts, but I still would bet that Mike Tyson today, even today, he would probably beat the shit out of most of the old-time boxers. So I think tradition, yes, we pay respect to our ancestors, but what we need to do is to in their footsteps and keep the art alive. So I have changed the way I practice and modified my sets that I learned a little bit, and also in some parts quite significantly. I learned from many other lineages. I did lots of research of other lineages of Lam Sai Wing and Wang Fei Hung, pre-Wang Fei Hung. I cross-trained Hung Kun, of course, MMA, reality-based self-defense. So I have adjusted the way I do my techniques and sets and combos the way that they suit me. So if the movement or the combo or the technique doesn't have a practical usage, and it may be strength, it may be fighting, it may be internal training, whatever, I'm not doing it. I need to know exactly what I'm doing, what are the benefits, and why I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah, it makes totally sense, right? So I mean,
so people see my I mean, my Fuhok is a bit different, but it's my Fuhok, and I want my students to, in the future, first follow my Fuhok and learn my Fuhok, but then have their own Fuhok.
Exactly. That's how it should be, you know, so it can evolve. And
Tiger Crane.
Hey, every person is different, moves different, and has different,
exactly.
You know, yeah, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Gung Ji. I mean, we know, but it's probably interesting for many people that are watching this now. Gung Ji always, I mean, obviously, Lam Sai Wing had many students. Let's start with Lam Sai Wing, because before, I think he also changed stuff and added stuff after Wong Fei Hung.
Yeah.
And if you know, obviously you know the book with all the pictures. It's always fun to look at it, and then you see some small minor details that are different. And I'm not talking about his age, whether he can do some low stances or not, but actually, if you look when he does the sweep, he's very low, right?
Yeah.
Most people can't.
There is a reason why the sweep is so low. There is also a reason behind it.
Of course, but I mean, to be able to do that at such an age, that's another thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, most people can't get that low, you know, for that exercise. So, but yeah, but if you, for me, like what you already said before, that Gung Ji, Fuhok, Kyun clearly are two sets, and people saying that the second half, the Fuhok, Kyun, is an original Shaolin set. So that's what you hear a lot, right? That this is.
And it is actually very popular. The second part is very popular in southern China and many lineages,
I
as
even
well
saw
as
Choi
many
Fat
styles
having this.
like this. Yeah, Choi Fat version.
Yeah.
I have seen many other schools to do it. They call it Tang Kung Fu Fu,
Yes,
and it's very popular in southern China.
yeah, yeah. And to me, it feels like the first part, if you look at it as the one set, the first half, the Gung Ji part, for me, it clearly looks like that these are all drills put together to make it Gung Ji, you know, in an I shape. For example, you have obviously you have the first part in standing, then the second in Saping Ma, you know, with the breathing, and then I
Then
think
you go left, right, yeah.
then the third and fourth part, which repeats left side, right side, I think kind of teaches you to look at, you know, having lines like you know, center line, and when you know, alignment for your stance, to have the right distance between the feet, what later will become naturally.
Same thing applies for the bridges. So here, or
Yes,
here,
yes.
or here, here. So
Yeah.
you're building your basic structure.
Yeah, but also the footwork. I mean, to have the right alignment, like left foot, right foot. The you know, a lot of people when they start martial arts, they like to do that Bruce Lee stance, have both feet placed in one line, which is very dangerous in a fight. You know, right? So I think this part also teaches, you know, the alignment for the feet, for the stance
and correct structure. Yes.
Yes.
Basically, in Hung Kuen they call it Yu Kyung Ma or Yu Kyung Ma Sam Hap Yat. Yu, how to move from your waist and your hips. Q, your bridges. So you have upper gate, middle gate, lower gate. Ma, which means your stances and footwork. And this is exactly the goal of the Kung-Ji Kun. So build your foundation. So these drills are not necessarily fighting drills. They are, of course, fighting drills inserted into that. So you have basically first 4 sections is mainly training. Of course, they do have fighting application, but it's mainly training. Then 5th section is already fighting. 6th section is already fighting. 7, then you come back in the old traditional way. You repeat the 2nd section. Then again, all fighting. You push, pull, and leak, right?
Retreat and forward, right?
Yes, that's a very typical for the old Hung Kuen. So you retreat to store the power, and then you release the power. You store the power, release the power, and lots of the stuff. And that's actually somebody wrote it into the comments in one of my articles, and he said, you know what? Why Fuhok Fu tamed the tiger? And there are many stories and theories and opinions, but he said, I think that's because most of it is wrestling. And you know what? I think it's right. Most of it is clinch work. Most of it is wrestling. So what I would say, and this was something that I wanted to talk about when you invited me to the podcast. I think many techniques are today taught and applied, you know, against straight punch or whatever punches. And I think most of it, especially in the old Hung Kuen, it applies to Gung-Ji Kun, is actually clinch phase of the fighting. So, you know, Tingam Kyo, you know, double biceps clinch. Then you have Bong Sao, you go for his groin. Then you go arm drag, basically. You have underhooks, you have overhooks. So if you study some clinch work, clinch for the street, as Barton Richardson from the JKD Unlimited likes to call it, then many of the techniques that many people think are, you know, blocks against different strikes will start to make sense way more, and they start to work, because old Hung Kuen was all short bridge, narrow stance, close range fighting, so-called how they call it, close quarter combatives, right? Close range fighting, and it makes way more sense and works way better than apply it, you know, against regular kickboxing. And I think this is the mistake that many Hung Kuen practitioners they do. They are always standing in the middle range. I say to my students, there is no middle range. This is the most dangerous one. When you trade punches, you either are further away. That's why we have adopted the long bridges. So you are side body, you have a long reach, long bridge techniques, or you are way closer, which means in a clinch range. And then you go for the groin, then you go for the throat, the eyes, you leak under, push, clinch, groin kicks, and so on and so forth. We are not in the middle range. It doesn't exist in Hung Kuen. We are either further away, that's Hung Kuen,
right.
or we are way closer, which is old Hung Kuen. And that is the reason why I think that our system is so great, because it covers both the long range and the close range. But there is no middle range. Middle range is sheer luck. He will knock me out sooner than I will. No, I'll e-weight and hit, or I'll just press in, control, and then destroy it from the close range. So that's my experience.
Right. I agree with that. I would say that mid range is, if ever, mostly just a transition from close to wide, or you know, so it's not where you stay. It's mostly a transition, maybe, but not.
I try to skip it. I try to transit from the long range to short range. And again, you mentioned it before, that different students will have a different how to say it in English, different things will suit them better or less, right? So we have basically two different strategies fighting. One of them is called Simta, the other Pikta. Simta means e-weight and hit. That's from HIP-HOP. So you e-weight, you hit him, run away, or continue with your attack, right? The other one is Pikta, which means press and hit, which is old Hung Kuen. So you press, you got really near, you push him to his heels, then you attack different gates. You go from lower gate to the upper gate, and that's old Hung Kuen. But the middle range, even if you watch MMA, you know, of course, the audience loves it when the fighters start to, you know, hit each other and start to brawl. But you can close your eyes, just start swinging, and it's a sheer luck, right?
You have no control about what happened. Yeah. You know, it's just luck. It's luck.
You can hit me, I can hit you. That's a bad trade, right? Yeah. I want to be in such position, let's say, to move to your dead angle, so I can hit you, and I have all weapons, but you have way less weapons. Or I want to move in. They call it Funk seal, right? Your weapons, and then attack you from there, right? Groin kicks, sweeps, throw the decks, stomps, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely agree with that. You know, yeah. This is great, but and it's so great. It's actually genius if you look at Gung Ji like this. What is all included in that set? You know, from fighting aspect, from the health aspects, from building a bridge, building a stance, learning the footwork, learning the right alignment and structure. It's really a genius. It's like
it's a treasure, one of the three treasures of Hung Kuen.
Exactly. It's a real treasure, and
One of my friends, George Ushek Sifu, he also unfortunately passed away quite recently. He told me he was a master of Tonglong Kun, the praying mantis, Tai Chi, Hung Kuen, Fu Jiao Pai. He told me years ago that I believe in New York there was one school of Hung Kuen, and all they did was just Kung Ji Fu Fu, nothing else,
right?
just taming the tiger. And they were the best fighters, you know, all around. And all they did was just Kung Ji Fu Fu and techniques taken from the Kung Ji Fu Fu. So
Right.
I think that applies to all of our 3 treasures / 4 pillars, which means Kung Ji, Fuhok, Saping, Titsin. You know, pick one, and it is a complete fighting system on its own. Not complete that it covers everything, but complete that if you master the techniques and strategies, let's say Titsin Kun, short range or clinch work, or Fuhok, or Saping coming from the clinch range to the long range, Gung Ji again close range most of the time, especially the first part, then you are good to go, right? So each set is a complete system on its own for reality-based self-defense. So it will not cover everything. You don't have high kicks and what not, right? But to be able to defend yourself, if you prefer closing the distance or staying away and strike from the longer distance, you got everything that you need to.
I have somewhere, I saved this because I always liked it, and I forgot who wrote it, but it's quite a lengthy, it's not an article, it was a post in a forum, in a very old forum back in 2004 or 3. Someone wrote something about Hung Kun being, the sets being, each set is kind of like a style on its own. And he wrote it very nice, and I always kept it. I still have it somewhere. I always was impressed by that, and it kind of made me appreciate the sets even more. You know, the idea of it, and that's a real long time ago. Probably about 2003 when I saved it. I still have it.
Find it and post it, brother. I would be interested to see that, and maybe I would recognize the person who wrote it. I have an idea.
Yeah. I still have that, definitely. Yeah, I will forward it to you. It's no problem.
Excellent.
I kept a lot of
before I forget, I need to give credit to my big brother and our mutual great friend Michael Goodwin Sifu from San Francisco. I would say it loud. I honestly think that he is the best Hung Kuen teacher in the West today. Definitely. I have never seen anybody with such a great skill, with such an organized curriculum, with such passion for the art, with such knowledge than he has. So this is a shout out to my big brother, and seeing Michael Goodwin Sifu, my grand friend. I learned from him so much, and I'm very, very grateful to him for all his knowledge that he was so generous to share with me. He was very active back in the old days on all the different forums. That's why you have reminded me. He was always giving great advice to all of us. So guys, listening to this podcast, if you are anywhere near San Francisco area, and you are interested in a functional and practical traditional Chinese or martial art, please make sure to contact Michael Goodwin Sifu and send him my best regards. And I sincerely hope that he will be one of the next guests of your podcast, brother, because I'm really looking forward to that. He is just awesome.
Yeah. Well, he already confirmed that we will do it.
Perfect. That's a great news.
Anytime soon, we most likely will do it. Yeah.
Perfect. And if I may suggest another guest, that would be David Rogers Sifu
Yeah,
from UK. He's also a Hung Kuen practitioner, HIP-HOP practitioner, and the same things that I said about my big brother, my Goodwin, I can say about my great friend and teacher as well, David Rogers. I mean, he is just awesome. So you ask him about knife fighting, stick fighting, Hung Kuen, HIP-HOP, Tai Chi, Chinese medicine. He's very humble, super skillful, and a super nice guy.
Definitely gonna. He was on my asking list.
Perfect.
One of the persons.
I have great friends and great teachers.
Yes. Yeah, man, this is so great talking to you about. I think most of the points I wrote down some pointers, and I think we have them all almost.
Would you like to discuss Fuhok, Saping, teaching briefly?
Yes, definitely. I wanted to. That's one important thing I wanted to do is especially that this show is for Hung Kuen practitioners, not only, but probably most. It should be all about Hung Kuen, and so we have to talk about the three treasures and then the Saping Kuen. So we got Gung Ji and yeah, Fuhok.
Fuhok, I'll be brief. Well, they call it back in the old days, or some of the lineages, they call it Hung Tao Fat-Me, which means the beginning is Hung Kuen and the end is Fat Ga, which means Hap-Ga Kuen, right? And if you look at the set, I honestly think it is exactly like this. The beginning, you have all the Kyu Sao, basically stationary, what they call Ta Zhong, practice Kung Fu on a stationary point. Then you start to move a little bit. You still have, Tang Kung, Song Kung. This is still all Hung Kuen. What we don't know if the tiger crane is actually Hung Kuen or if it is HIP-HOP, because HIP-HOP also has tiger crane. They also have double tiger, single tiger. They have the crane very similar to what we got. And then, of course, we have the section of the long bridges, which is pure HIP-HOP. Right? A bit differently, that it's all purposes, but it's just pure HIP-HOP. So Hung Tao Fat-Me, and we have it confirmed from various sources that Wang Fei-Hung studied with Wang Yanlam.
Right.
Wang Yanlam wasn't his Sifu. He said basically to Wang Fei-Hung when he was visiting his school, hey, you got your Sifu, your father, Wang Keing, but if you like to, I'm going to teach you my skills, right? So that's basically Fuhok. So part Hung Kuen, part HIP-HOP, and I personally think being a student of HIP-HOP as well, I think this is a great combination.
It is indeed. There's so many also so many things to discover in the set. Some nice draws, some a lot of even the first part, the standing part, when you do all these movements, I find this is already close combat again. All the breathing incorporated in the set, and very long, so it also, you have to memorize a lot of movements. It also will train your brain and your memory. And
I mean, just look at your Sigung or at my Sigung or many students of the Lamjo, right? They were regularly gentlemen in their 80s, 90s, and they were still training. Their brain was super sharp. They still, had fun and made jokes. So this is one of the aspects. We are training our left and right hemispheres to work together, and the training, Kung Fu training, even like remembering lots of sets and training them, it's the best way to keep both your body and your brain sharp, because we know from the biology and psychology as well that the development of your movement and brain when you are a small kid is closely connected. and the degeneration of the brain and movement is again closely connected. So you stop to move, then you start to go downhill, right? Also here.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's very, very important to stay practice, even if you're old and can't do everything, but as long as you do something, it will help, you know. And
sure, if you are 80 years old, you are like the last thing on your list is fighting, right? You just stay healthy and enjoy your life, right? So
exactly.
So whenever I read comments, we just discussed it before, somebody posts a comment to a YouTube video of an 80 years old master, oh, he wouldn't survive in UFC 1 minute. I said, what the hell? This guy, he likes to enjoy his tea and his yamcha with his friends and
right.
train some kung fu. The last thing that he's thinking about is to become a professional UFC fighter, for Christ's sake, right?
Yeah, it's the influence of media, and people don't try to, not everyone, but a lot of people they don't make up their own mind. They just follow what they get served on their plate. It's the most comfortable for them probably, and why should I use my own brain or my own mind? And
you mean that they are stupid, basically, Frank, right? So yeah, I agree.
it is what it is.
Confused, I would say confused. Okay. Yeah. Shall we discuss Hung Kun? That's one of my favorites.
Hung Kuen, and yeah, the 5 elements.
Animals, 5 elements. Originally, Wong Fei Hung had 5 animals, 5 elements. I'm not really sure if it was really a set or just a series of drills and techniques, because he also trained Hung Kun, the 5 elements from Hap Kun, which you learn from Wong Yan Lam. My personal theory is that it wasn't actually a set, but more series of different combinations that were later put together into a set of the 5 animals. And then Lam Sai Wing, he put it all together also with the Hung Kun techniques, the 5 elements that he learned from Wong Fei Hung. And we were talking about the 3 treasures. So we have Gung Ji, Fuhok, Sigung, and Saping, the 10 forms of 5 animals, 5 elements. It's actually best of all these 3. So all these put together. I remember training at Lam Kun in later 1990s, early 2000. Many students actually preferred to train Saping Kun. And I didn't understood it, right? I mean, I wanted to learn Tsin Kun. I did my Gung Ji, Fuhok, but everybody loved to do Saping. And I asked them, and they said, you know what? It's everything in there. We have some Gung Ji, we have some Fuhok, we have some Tsin Kun, and we have, the 5 elements, which is, cool Southern style long range boxing. I didn't understand it at that time. I think I understand it way better right now. These guys were right. So we have Gung Ji, Fuhok, Tsin, Saping.
Yes, indeed. It's Saping is I think my story is similar with Saping Kun. First, I couldn't really get warm with the set because I thought Gung Ji, Fuhok, Tsin, that's okay, that's enough. And then I learned really Saping Kun last, so, but now I also appreciate the set much more than before. And yeah, I like also the 5 element parts. But so the end part is almost completely like Fuhok, but in between, and I mean the 9 pow choice that you do in 9 directions, that is just a drill, right? We do practice this a lot of times in our training as a drill. Repeat the 9 pow choice, start at one point and then and then use weights. Sometimes the wrist weights, sometimes the iron rings, doesn't matter actually, but it's a good exercise, and Yeah, I like it. I like the 5 elements, and also the part when you you know, the after the bridge, the golden bridge, when you start, you think this also comes from a certain style, you know, the little closer, when you know, when you the wood techniques and everything. You think that comes from another style?
I think it's Hung Kuen.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
all 5 elements is Hung Kuen, right? Well, in the lineage that I practice, we don't have the short strikes, but everything else is basically Hung Kuen. It's all long bridge, all long range. So you have outside hammer fist, inside hammer fist, long range 14 choi, soy long pao choi, which is called wan san choi in Hung Kuen. Then you have the earth technique, which is called pokik sao, very famous Hung Kuen technique. It's all Hung Kuen. It's all Hung Kuen. Once you start to train Hung Kuen, that it makes perfectly sense.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
So many people say, oh, this is Southern Shaolin, 5 element boxing, and so on and so forth. Not true. This is Hung Kuen.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% convinced about that, whatever people say.
Yeah, Hung Kuen is a very nice style. I mean, I didn't have a chance to learn a lot from this, but obviously I've seen you doing it, and David, and also, and it's a style where probably in future I want to look into more deeply, you know. So just to have.
Definitely, I can't recommend David enough. And actually, he has an online school right now, so he has a great online teaching program, Rising Crane. And I mean, the way that he does the stuff, the live online lessons, then the instructional videos, question and answers, and everything is just awesome. So I can recommend it enough to all the Kung Fu enthusiasts. If you have no access to a Kung Fu master and you want to learn functional Chinese martial arts for health, for fighting, then Rising Crane has an excellent program. He does really a great job. Right now, he has a 2nd year. You can join only 1 year, but I recommend it. And he has a Hung Kuen and Tai Chi online classes as well. And you will be surprised how you can improve like in 1 year. So definitely recommend it.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we'll definitely try to hook with him up for another podcast in the future.
Hopefully, once the coronavirus stuff is over, he will come to Prague, and either you will come to visit us, or we may come to visit you. So he's just such a great guy.
Yeah, definitely. This has
we would have fun. We would have fun together.
So
all right, Titinkun, brother.
Titinkun.
I think lots of misunderstandings about Titinkun. First of all, it's a Neukong exercise, internal training, but I think many people don't understand like what does it really mean. You know, my education, you mentioned in the beginning, my StrongFirst education. I'm StrongFirst master certified instructor, student of Pavel and many of my colleagues. And one of the courses that we got, it's called Second Wind, and it's about breathing from the perspective of the Western and Eastern science as well, especially Russian, and lots of stuff. Why did I become student of Pavel Tsatsouline? I was looking for a strength and conditioning program for martial arts, and I found his book called The Naked Warrior, which is about body weight exercises, 1-arm push-ups, single leg squats. I will skip the exercises. I'll go to the principles. The stuff that Pavel was teaching in that book was exactly the stuff that I learned in Hung Kuen from my teachers. You know, such as grab the floor with your toes, let's say in the single leg squats, or do it in the push-ups, corkscrew your arms into the shoulders, use your lats, use your grip, use your diaphragm, lift your pelvic floor, breathe in a certain way, develop attention in a certain way. And I thought, hell, I learned this stuff in, let's say, learning Tse Kun or Saping Kun, but I never thought that I can apply these principles to strength training, to push-ups, to squats, or kettlebell presses or whatever. And I wasn't able to do the one-arm push-up and single leg squat if I did just the exercises. But when I applied all these principles, I was able to do it in a couple of days, and I was very amazed. And eventually become a student of Pavel and learn from him lots about strength training. And I would say lots of strong training that we are doing in StrongFirst is actually internal training, because you can't see what your diaphragm is doing, or pelvic floor, or how you are breathing, right? Where you develop, tension or relaxation. That's one part of Tse Kun. So if we start from the bottom, the famous Ichi Kim Young Ma stance, grabbing the floor with your toes, corkscrewing your feet into the ground, extending your hips, engaging your glutes, lifting the pelvic floor, working with your diaphragm, working so-called hollow position, so slightly hunchback, using your back, using your lat muscles, using your grip, right? All this we learn at StrongFirst in various exercises. All this I just explained in Tse Kun. So that's one part. The other part is breathing, right? We both learned Tse Kun, and we both know that there is a certain rhythm. Sometimes you breathe in with your nose, sometimes with your mouth. You have different breath holds, you make different sounds. And why is it called internal training? The important stuff is happening inside on a biochemistry level, which basically comes to, how do you call it? Oxide, nitrite, NO, I don't know in English, CO2, of course, and O2, of course, the oxygen, right? And the exchange of these gases and what these gases are doing within your body is very important. So that's the reason why, if you train and you know what to do with your breathing, and it applies especially to different breath holds after inhale, breath holds after exhale, breath holds combining with different sounds, then you can program your Tse Kun to more strength, power, to more stamina, to more calmness, and so on and so forth. And again, I have to thank to my teacher, Pavel, who helped me to understand the internal part of Tse Kun. We know it's working, right? We have many proofs in Hung Kuen in general. I would say that we are the #1 longevity style. We have many masters who lived even on a poor diet and even, let's say, smoking, drinking until 80s, 90s, 100 years, and still in a great health. And when I asked Grandmaster Lamjo what his secret of longevity is, he said Tse Kun, right? Like everybody. So we know, and I knew that it works, but now I know how it works. And that's thanks to my studies with my teacher Pavel Tsatsulin. So it is very profound system how to increase your strength like immensely. The older texts say like 9 times, right?
Right.
I'm not sure if really 9 times, but significantly. Yes. Really significantly. And what is interesting, you can also increase your endurance, your aerobic and anaerobic endurance, even by training a slow and long set. If you program the breath holds in the different parts of the set correctly, right? The third part, and I think we are still lacking enough research, is are the sounds. And yes, there is currently some very interesting research about, let's say, humming, about cats purring, right? Why do you know that I got 2 cats. Why do the cats purr? They purr not only when they are happy, but they also purr when they are injured, because the sound and the vibration helps to heal their injuries, especially muscle, skeletal, right? We know that breath holds after exhale, increasing the levels of CO2 within the body, helps with the healing of minor muscle tears. So there is lots of stuff that the old masters coming back from the Titkyu-sam lineage, they knew it, they found it by experimenting, and they had really good feeling what's happening within the body. And I think this is a real treasure, very profound, and very few I met perform it correctly or understand it correctly. I would say 99.9% of people. So this is something I spent 4 years, well, 3 or 4 years practicing Tetsingkun every single day, doing all the possible research, both within my lineage, outside my lineage, Eastern medicine, Western medicine. And I think this is really something. It's very deep, very profound, if you know what you are doing. So it's not that difficult to learn. The difficult part is to keep practicing it and practicing it correctly.
That's exactly what my Sifu always says. He said it's not hard to learn, but hard to practice.
Yeah.
What he meant is exactly what you said, right? That you keep doing it, keep practicing it every day. Have your corner somewhere, have your place, and practice it. Also remember, it's not for what a lot of people don't seem to know, or I don't know, but this set is not for demonstrating. It's not for pulling faces, making noises. I mean, you make sound too, but for a different purpose than showing it to others, right?
Yeah, sure. There's a different, and you know, when you lift something heavy, you make a sound.
Right.
Right. When you laugh, you make a sound, and your abs get engaged in a certain way. When you want to release tension,
exactly. But
make a certain sound. So it is a very another thing, another misconception with Tetsingkun is people think it's just for health and strength. No, it's a combat set as well. And one of the very few who understands the combat applications of the Tetsingkun is my Sigung that I mentioned before, Michael Goodwin Sifu. When he showed me the combat use of the Tetsingkun techniques, like I said, most of it clinch range fighting, Kam Nasao, the different joint blocks techniques, I was just blown away. It works like a magic. So if you are looking for Tetsingkun application specialist, there is nobody better than my Sigung, Michael Goodwin.
Yeah, I hope after all this craziness in the world that when traveling is more easy and Michael will come back here to Europe. He was meant to come here, I think 2 years or 1 year ago, or when was it?
Yeah, 2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I organized a series of 4 workshops with my Sigung in Prague, and it was awesome. I still have to release the footage from the workshops, especially in these COVID times. I'm like super busy in damage control, let's say, but I promise that I'll put the footage together and we will release it as online courses, a series of online courses at my website practicalhungkuen.com. We have Gung Ji fighting applications, Fuhok fighting applications, Hung Kuen in general fighting applications for reality-based self-defense, and then 12 bridges, 8 directions workshop. And I mean, this is just awesome. You know, everybody who knows Michael knows that he is a real deal. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure about that too. Yeah, I was meant to have him here or at least do something in Germany with him, but then life had different plans. But we will, once stuff goes back to normal, we will get him here again.
Yeah, we have to, definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Exactly. What do you think about the connection of emotions and sounds in Tizing Kun?
I would say that, and we know it again from the psychological research, then let's say different expressions on your face and different body postures are connected to different emotions. So let's say if somebody is sad, he's usually curling. If somebody is happy, celebrating after, in a ball game, shooting a goal, he'll go like, wow, opening, right?
Yeah.
Same goes for the facial expression. Especially in our lineage, we don't work with it that much consciously, but it will still happen anyway. If you make a different sound, that you will make naturally different faces, right? And it will mimic different emotion as well. So that's my take on it. So we don't usually, try to be like really cheaper when laughing, but when you do, hey, see the face when you make, right? It's you laugh or you worry or you are angry, right? So it just becomes naturally. So maybe we will find out more about this from what I have seen in other lineages. People putting emphasis on that. I'm not convinced that they know much about it. I'm just not convinced.
Yeah,
I may be perfectly wrong. Maybe they have some secret knowledge that I don't have, but I think let's see in the future. Let's see.
Emotions will send signals to your brain. I mean, there's this old thing about when you're very angry, like you want to punch a hole in the wall, and then you're supposed to look in the mirror and smile, and just to see even if you smile, it will change something. It will probably
just think about it. When you see somebody smile, you also naturally smile, right? But the example you just mentioned, that's the reason why I have many broken mirrors in my apartment.
Yeah. So it's Tizing Kun is very interesting. It's
I think you can spend lifetime practicing any of the sets that we have mentioned. Another good candidate would be the Nglong Pak Wak One, right? The eighth trigram long pole set. That's another candidate, and you can spend whole lifetime researching, practicing, developing the techniques and the set. But Tizing Kun, I asked Grandmaster Lamjo like years ago, like what are the advantages of Hung Kuen, right? Why Hung Kuen is so good? And he was thinking for a while, and he said, there are many great styles, many great Kung Fu styles, many great martial arts, but we have Tizing Kun. And many of the masters of other styles that I have met in China, they said the same thing. They said, they may even say we have better this and that, but then they would say, but you guys, you have Tizing Kun, and that's a real treasure. That's nobody else has something that's even closer to our Tizing Kun.
Yes, and I wish there would be more material that we could learn from a study or research. I mean,
I may be on something, brother. The secret that I just mentioned. So just fingers crossed, and if we are lucky, we may get some really good. They are some Tizing Kun materials that I think can still help us to understand it even better than we do. So let's see.
The future will show. The future will show. But yeah, it's very interesting. How about some minor things like you know, I love to collect these old Wong Fei-hung movies because even the fighting choreography isn't too fancy, but real fighting is not fancy anyway. But what's interesting about these old movies is especially the first years, they used a lot of real martial art teachers, students of Lam Sai Wing, for example. Many have been in the movies, and a lot of these movies are maybe lost or not maybe some people have them on videotapes and don't even know what they have there, you know, because there are no official DVD releases or anything, or the movies never have been restored or anything. But there are still some movies, because I took the time when I was in Hong Kong to go to the Hong Kong film archives, and they had some old leaflets, Chinese, from really from that time when the movies were released in the cinemas in Hong Kong. And there was like some anniversary, some movie for Lam Sai Wing's, I'm not sure if it was the 20th birthday anniversary or death anniversary. They had this one special episode where actually it says, I asked already many, and most of them, even my Sifu, said, no, we don't think so. But I showed the article to my Sifu, and then he said, oh, okay. But it's supposed to have Lamjo in it, showing long pole techniques. And the description of the long pole is, because maybe the one who wrote the article has not much knowledge about the style itself. So the way he wrote it, but it sounded like 8-diagram pole, but he just called it differently, 64 techniques or something like that.
Yeah, that's the original Bad Quack one, right?
Right.
Because the original one had 64 points, so that's highly probable that that's another name for the very same set.
Right.
I would also say we had many students of Lam Sai Wing and grand students of Lam Sai Wing, many students of my Sigung, Lamjo Sigung playing in the movie. So I think it's highly probable. So let's hope that we will find it one day. Of course, it would be great to have some footage of the legendary Grandmaster Lamjo. He was young, forming such a precious set.
That would be awesome. Totally crazy to find this. I've been looking for.
We will one day. We will, brother. I hope so.
For this for more than 10 years, I think. Also shows Grandmaster Lao Jam demonstrating the complete Tiger and Crane set. You know, what's another thing.
We saw a small example of the first two sections, the standing ones, right?
Yes,
but
yes.
That would be awesome to see the.
That's from that movie, exactly. Actually, from the same movie, also that's supposed to have Lamjo in it.
Okay. Do you know the title of that movie?
Yeah, the title is the story of Wong Fei-hung and Lam Sai Wing.
Oh, okay.
It's from 1954.
Okay, you got to send me the name later, and I'll ask some of my friends and colleagues if they would be able to find it somehow.
Even once I had my Sifu's son Tony writing me a Chinese text, and because there's a Chinese movie group, they mostly talk about the old movies, and I've been there are some collectors in there, and most of them told me I try to reach out to the film archives. I did. They sent me to another film or TV station. I wrote them, and they again said they don't have it. So one time I read.
How about the Wong Fei-hung Museum in Vietnam? Because they have a lot of those movies in there.
At some point, it was somewhere written that some TV station donated the movie to the Hong Kong Film Archives, but when I asked them, they said they don't have it. They only have this leaflet. So it's
maybe true, maybe not. People are lazy, right? If there is no gain in there, they say, "Oh, we don't have it." Just
exactly, because we saw a little bit of the footage, and that was shown at. There was once like a Wong Fei-hung movie festival in Hong Kong, and there were also some Sifus or some masters had some little speeches, and there was Lao Ga Yong, like
I saw that one. I saw that one. I actually was interestingly, I was watching it like a few days ago.
So he was talking. He was talking while the movie was playing in the background. So the movie, someone must have the movie. You know, it's still there. That's where I got the footage from. You know, just there was some highlight reel of that festival, and then they show a little bit of Lao Jam during the beginning of Fuhok. That was very. Finding that movie is still my one of my goals, just to see that footage. You know, it's very interesting.
Keep searching for that. I will hopefully discover different treasures, and meanwhile, and then we'll exchange like we always do, brother.
Oh,
so don't give up. Please do find it.
No, but there's only so much you can do. Yeah. So I think we've been, how long, what time we have it? Oh, we nearly
2 hours, right? We can talk forever, brother.
I know. I don't think that anyone has the stamina to watch a 3 hour. We already got, I think we're already beyond 3 hours now, which is no problem for me. I think we could talk forever. I mean,
that's right.
We just could talk about the time in Hong Kong. I mean, we've been even there. We met. Remember when we met Mbing Kun Sifu?
It was great time as well. We trained in the park. He showed his Tsinken, which is very interesting and very close to what I do. He's one of the persons whose Tsinken I like very much, and I pick up lots of useful stuff from Sifu. You perform your Tsinken, so it was a nice exchange and also nice cross training. So
it was really. This is what I miss sometimes. The time when, you know, when we're exchanging and researching, and I mean, we still can do that, but sometimes it feels like we never find everything, you know, but it gets less, you know, it gets less. And but the old times when I mean, I remember when I lived in the Philippines, and my great friend Sifu Alexander Ko, who also unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, he was like he had his own library of magazines and books, and a lot of the articles that we exchange or that are also passed on to you was from his magazines and books, and I always took them and scanned everything, and he also translated some stuff for me. And yeah, those days were always so exciting, you know, finding new stuff and getting a better picture of the past also, you know, and learn from it and use it for yourself and develop again, right? I mean, now, not only now, I mean, we've always been doing this, like training with mitts, hitting stuff, or you know, when I will have a talk with my friend Sifu Henry Loh as well, and I remember because he also knows wrestling. And then back in 2006, when I lived on the Philippines and I was teaching there, I sometimes asked him to teach some wrestling, you know, some basic wrestling, and we even did that also then. And I still have some old. I still have some old DV video tapes from that time that I still have to transfer somehow, you know, because I still have that footage on these tapes, on these little tapes. I tried to transfer them one time, but I think they have NTSC and here's VHS PAL system, and it doesn't play here, so I have to somehow get that converted at some point, because it's very interesting, you know, even for me.
I have probably 50 tapes or even more from my trips and research in China in DV8. but the camera is broken. So I got to find the DV8 camera, and I have some real treasures over there. I did very extensive research, especially in China, as for the various lineages of Hung Kuen. So I have Samchin Hung Kuen, I have Ng Hung Kuen, many other lineages, and of course lots of footage of my Sifu, Lam Chan Sing, some footage from Hong Kong, and I just got to find some time and share it with the rest of the world. I was thinking few years ago, maybe to make a membership website devoted to posting these audios and articles and stuff. I have like lots of stuff, so I may do it in the future. I'm trying to convince my brother to do translations of the Chinese articles, because my brother Peter, his Chinese is excellent, and he's one of the very few who can also read the old Chinese, let's say, of Chiyuk Chai and his books. So one of the very few. So if you help me to convince him, then we can get this going. He's so kind to translate some stuff for me to check. So we have a huge archive of real treasures, really very interesting texts, and we just need to translate them into English. Another person who is capable to do that is Michael Goodwin, of course. My Sigung. So let's see. This would be a good project, I would say.
Michael had no, it wasn't. I was talking to some, and now I just can't remember the name, but he's also a friend of Michael, a Chinese person who lives in San Francisco as well, and he said that he met someone whose father learned directly from Lam Sai Wing.
Oh, I met him. I met him in San Francisco 2 years ago, the gentleman. I can't remember the name, but I met him, and I have interesting footage with him. We was Yun Sifu, I believe. And he gave Michael unknown, until that time, unknown picture of Lam Sai Wing. I think it was Tung Tin Pao Choi from Gung Ji Fu Kun. And he showed us different. I'll post that footage. I'll post that footage. I promise. If I forget, remind me. He showed a single tiger, double tiger, some of the Saptuk Sao, some of the favorite combinations that he learned from his father, that his father learned from Lam Sai Wing. He showed us parts of the sets, stuff about Titsing-kun and stuff. Might spend lots of time with him, so he's the right person to ask. Yeah, Lam Sai Wing, director Lam Sai Wing's grand students, and his father was I would say he was a very dedicated student of Lam Sai Wing, because he kept his notes and everything. So yes, I met the Sifu that you are mentioning. I think his name is Yun Sifu.
Yeah, he wasn't that old, the person. You mean the one who yeah, right. So
he was, the Yun Sifu was already like in his 70s, maybe 80s.
Yes. Very interesting also about the neck in Titsing Kun with the neck, the using the neck for some breathing exercise, and also tense the neck and stuff.
The thing is that we always think about diaphragm as just the one muscle, like in our belly, but there are actually about like 7 diaphragms. So it's a pelvic floor that's within your belly, in the chest, then your neck, then your tongue. So you can use all this stuff to emphasize different aspects of Titsing Kun. That's the thing about the breathing exercises. You can program the same breathing exercise or general the exercise to different purposes. Like I said before, you want to develop more strength, or get energized, or get calmer, or relax, or develop your stamina, cardiovascular, endurance, aerobic, anaerobic, and you can just program it with different types of tension and different types of breathing and breath hold.
Right. Yeah. So there's so much to discover and so much there, work with.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think we already passed the 3 hours mark. We don't want to overuse our
2 hours and a half, brother. Yeah, we can always make a part 2, right? If the,
Oh yeah,
if the
yeah.
listeners,
Still
if the
some
listeners like it, if the listeners like it, then they should let you know, and we can always make a part 2 in the future.
Oh yeah, definitely. As I said, there's so many open topics still that we can never touched on.
Exactly.
I think what I would like to do, maybe we can even have Michael joining, because I think one of the great masters, grandmasters, who did a lot for Hung Kuen and added a lot and was very creative, was Grandmaster Lamjo, obviously. And his story is, I think is a great story, and it would take one episode just on him to see what, because I heard so many stories also about his health, you know, that that at some point he was very sick, and but in the end became very old, you know, thanks to Kyun. So there are so many stories, and Hong Kong
Definitely.
itself.
Grandmaster Lamjo was a true legend.
Yes.
We are very honored to have the chance to meet him, and I had the chance to learn from him as well. I just discovered some of the old footage that I have with my Sigung, and Michael Goodwin has spent years in Hong Kong, like combined, and he is definitely the person to ask about our I mean, my Sigung, Grandmaster Lamjo. So definitely let's do this to pay respect to the late Grandmaster Lamjo.
Yeah, I think we should have a special episode for him, just for him alone.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan.
What I saw, I mean, and I have met him only twice, and I never trained with him or anything, but I saw some footage, you know, I saw some footage, and I was always amazed how precisely he moved, and you could see the power and everything, even in old age. And
he was just awesome. I had the honor, he corrected my whole Gung Ji, my whole Fuhok, parts of Saping, parts of Kun, and a couple of weapons.
Well, that's great. That's already
the beginning to the end, and he stopped me basically every single movement. He stopped me, made adjustments, give me comments, and showed me the application. And what I would say is Hung Kuen was way more short bridge, way more compound, and I would also say really close, if not virtually the same as Lam Sai Wings. Maybe back in the when he got older, he came back, made a full circle, came back to the way that he originally learned from Lam Sai Wing. I mean, he was teaching. He started to teach when he was 16. At 26, he had already his own school, and he passed away. And he was how old? Like 102 or something like this, right? So that's a hell of a teaching career, right? So of course he made lots of adjustments, changes and stuff, but the way that I learned from him was very Lam Sai Wing's way, I would say. So definitely great memories, and I still remember everything that he showed me. Micah Goodwin, he spent lots of time with Sigung and learned from him as well. Another person who spent lots of time in Hong Kong and learned from Sigung is my Sihing Leon Dogan from UK. He would be also great guest on your podcast, I suppose.
Yeah.
And our mutual friend Charis, of course, Charis Van Slot, student of Grandmaster Lam Chan Fai, another great guy and great friend of mine. So.
Yeah, and also my Sifu actually has followed, as you know, Lamjo for 15 years as well, right? He went for 15 years.
That's where I met him. Yeah, that's where I met him.
Week he went there. I always hear the stories from him too, you know. So there's a there's so much history. I was sad, you know, that they renovated the school.
Yes, yes. It just broke my heart, brother.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I came there. My last time was 2009 when Sigung was still alive, and then my next visit was 2016, and the school was already renovated. I mean, it looks great, but it just broke my heart to see the Lam that I remember to get, you know, like renovated. So
Now it's
I still cherish in my memory the old Lam.
Yeah, I mean, it's now almost eerie if you watch the videos. I mean, I have some footage. I have a lot of footage, not a lot of footage, but I have some footage in the Lamgun, like 1 or 2 hours, you know. Some people practicing, is doesn't matter who now, but even own footage when I was there with my Sifu, and there's always the TV running. You hear the background from the TV,
Yeah.
or the neighbors coming by, want bring something, or want to pick up something, some medicine. And
I still remember practicing my style when they were playing mahjong, you know. So
yeah,
half of the small room was mahjong, and I was doing my tsinken in the very same room.
now when you watch it now, it's kind of eerie, you know, because you know it's all gone, you know, and we can be happy to have some footage and still watch it and get that feeling. It's kind of, you know, this is it, you know.
Times change. Yeah,
times change, but I mean, some things they should not touch, you know, just leave it there, because all that life, all the training, the hours and hours of training in this small place, it's in there, you know, like and you can see it, smell it, you know, and there should be like almost like a museum or something, you know. How long?
I think that's what the Lam family didn't want to become a museum. They wanted the place to be actually used for training. So right now you have a sandbag, you have a wooden dummy there, you have some weights. My Sibak, Lam Chan Chung, a great guy, great teacher as well. I learned from him so much. He runs the school. He's very open-minded, very modern. So on one hand, yes, I feel exactly the same way that you do. On the other hand, I think
life goes on.
he's doing a great job on bringing the art into the 21st century. So,
I mean,
pro and contrast.
Might have maybe found a middle way, you know, not completely remove everything, and have the training should continue, obviously. Of course, life goes on. We can't stop and mourn forever, you know. But it's a nice memory if you go there, you know. So
I still remember the old studio, the smell, the sound, all the classmates, right? Some of them passed away already. Chung Wai Hung, my dear friend, a couple of years ago, right? And then the students scattered, then they came back together. But I mean, life is changed. It is what it is.
Yeah. Can't change that though. But you always can keep the memory, you know. So
exactly.
This comes along with everything.
Yep.
Great talk. When people want to look you up, where they find you?
So for the Hung Kun, I have because like you mentioned before, there are many things that I'm involved in, but I'll give you just one link, which is practicalhungkun.com. Please put it into the notes to the podcast, because there are different spellings. We are using the Yale romanization of Cantonese. So it's practicalhungkun.com. We have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group as well, Instagram page. We are posting some interesting footage, articles. There are probably a couple of hundreds of articles on the website as well. So that's practicalhungkun.com plus the social media. And you can also find me out on my own personal webpage. Facebook page, which is Pavel Macek, my name, and I have also an Instagram page, my personal Pavel Macek. which I truly enjoy most from the old social media. So Practical Hung Kuen and Pavel Macek webpage, Facebook, and Instagram page.
I will also put all the links in the description box to this video later when.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
That's no problem. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. Maybe we can do it with Michael, including Michael too, for the Lamjo special. I think
first do a separate one with Michael Goodwin.
Anyway, yes.
Because he is just, we are talking for 2.5 hours. With my seeing, you can talk for days, because he is just encyclopedia of Hung Kuen, and I truly believe that he will do way better job in explaining the subtleties of our art. He's my dear friend, big brother, and dear teacher, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely we'll do that with him. Yeah, so what else leave us to say then? Thank you very much for taking the time, being the first guest on my show.
Oh, that's my honor. That makes me very happy, and thank you very much for invitation, Frank. Great to see you, brother, and keep in touch, and hopefully see us in better times very soon.
I hope so too. So thanks again.
Shaolin salute.
Yeah, well.
See you, brother.